Captain William Porter stood at the viewport of Earth's orbital defense station, his eyes fixed on the holographic display. The alien ships appeared as red dots, over 200 of them, arranged in perfect formation as they crossed beyond Neptune's orbit. His hands gripped the railing until his knuckles turned white. "How long until they reach Earth?" he asked. Lieutenant Susan Taylor looked up from her console. "At current speed, 3 days, sir." Porter nodded. Humanity had only ventured to Mars and a few moons in the solar system. They had dreamed of meeting aliens for centuries, but not like this. Not with a fleet big enough to blot out the sun. The station's communication system beeped. Admiral Diane Nelson's face appeared on the main screen. Her expression was grim. "Captain Porter, report to Emergency Meeting Room 6 immediately. First contact protocols are now active." 20 minutes later, Porter sat at a round table with Earth's top military and political leaders. Dr. Lisa Grant, the leading xenolinguist, stood before them, playing a message that had been broadcast across all channels an hour ago. A tall alien, with gray skin and 4 eyes, appeared on screen. Its voice had been translated by computers. "People of Earth, I am Imperial Commander Zorx of the Caltharian Empire. For 10,000 years we have ruled the stars. Your planet has been marked for integration. You will surrender all military forces, resources, and accept Caltharian rule. You have 30 Earth days to kneel before the Empire. Resistance means death." The room fell silent after the message ended. President Alan Bennett spoke first. "Options?" General Frank Morgan cleared his throat. "Sir, their technology is far beyond ours. Our best ships would be like throwing rocks at a tank." Dr. Grant stepped forward. "We should try to talk to them. Maybe we can negotiate better terms." Porter couldn't. "Stay quiet." The translation didn't quite catch the tone. This wasn't an invitation to talk, it was an order. Ambassador Eric Mitchell adjusted his glasses. "Nevertheless, we must attempt diplomacy. War would be suicide." Admiral Nelson pulled up data on her tablet. "We've detected energy readings from their ships. Their weapons could glass our cities in minutes." "What about our secret defense projects?" President Bennett asked. The room grew even quieter. Project Starfall was known only to those present. A last resort weapon system that many considered too dangerous to even build. "Starfall is still months from completion," General Morgan said. "And even then we don't know if it would be enough." Porter studied the alien ship's formation on the screen. Something about their perfect arrangement bothered him. It seemed designed to intimidate rather than for tactical advantage. "They want a show of force," he said, drawing all eyes to him. "They're used to species surrendering immediately. What if we don't?" Dr. Grant shook her head. "I've been studying the message patterns. There are references to other worlds. I think they've done this many times before." President Bennett stood up. "We need more information. Ambassador Mitchell, prepare a diplomatic team. Captain Porter, ready our fleet, but keep them hidden behind the moon. Admiral Nelson, activate all defense systems but keep it quiet, and accelerate Project Starfall. We need options." 3 days later, Ambassador Mitchell stood in the neutral meeting zone established in Earth orbit. The diplomatic vessel was simple, deliberately non-threatening. The ambassador fidgeted with his tie as the airlock cycled. When Imperial Commander Zorx entered, Mitchell had to force himself not to step back. The alien stood nearly 8 feet tall with gray skin that seemed metallic in the light. 4 yellow eyes blinked independently of each other. "Ambassador," the alien's voice came through a translator device. "Your response to our terms?" Mitchell smiled diplomatically. "Commander Zorx, humanity welcomes peaceful contact with your species. We propose trade and cultural exchange rather than submission." The alien's upper eyes narrowed. "You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. Kneel or die. This is the way of the Empire." "Surely there's room for discussion," Mitchell insisted. "Our species has much to offer as allies rather than subjects." "Allies?" Zorx made a sound that might have been laughter. "We have no allies, only servants and enemies." Mitchell tried another approach. "We would like more time to prepare our world for integration. 30 days is very little time for a planetary transition." This seemed to interest the commander. "You intend to submit?" We are discussing the possibility, Mitchell said carefully. Meanwhile, in a secure bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Lisa Grant worked with her team to decode more Caltharian transmissions they had intercepted. "This can't be right," she whispered as the translation appeared on her screen. She read the intercepted message again, her hands shaking. She reached for the secure line to the president. "Sir, I have critical information. The Caltharians, they've never accepted a peaceful surrender. Every species that submitted had their leadership executed and their populations enslaved. Those who fought were completely wiped out." "You're certain?" the president asked. "Yes, sir. And worse. I've found references to 27 other species they've encountered, all either enslaved or extinct. In orbit around Mars, Captain Porter received new orders. Operation Shadow Fleet was now active. Earth's most advanced ships, hidden from sensors in underground bases on Mars and the Moon, were to be prepared for deployment." Porter looked at the message from Admiral Nelson. "Diplomacy continues, but prepare for the worst." Back in the diplomatic vessel, Ambassador Mitchell felt a chill as Commander Zorex leaned closer. "We will grant you additional time," the alien said. 20 more days to prepare your surrender ceremony. We expect your world leaders to personally kneel before our Emperor when he arrives." "Thank you for this consideration," Mitchell said, hiding his disgust. As Zorex turned to leave, he paused. "One more thing, Ambassador. We have detected unusual activity around your Mars colony. Any attempt to hide military assets is futile and will result in immediate punishment." After the commander left, Mitchell contacted Earth immediately. "They're watching us closely, and I don't think they're planning to honor any agreement we make." President Bennett sat in the Oval Office, looking at reports from around the world. Nations were setting aside centuries of differences to face this new threat. Scientists worked around the clock on defense systems. Military forces mobilized quietly. "Sir," his aide said, entering with a tablet. "Dr. Grant has sent more translations. The Caltharians have a name for Earth." "What is it?" the president asked. "They call us the Defiant Ones. They've never encountered a species that didn't immediately surrender or attack." The president looked out the window at the night sky. Somewhere up there, humanity's fate was being decided. "Then let's live up to the name," he said quietly. In his quarters on the defense station, Captain Porter studied everything they knew about the alien ships. Their formation, their technology, their apparent weaknesses. Humanity was outmatched. But Porter had found something interesting. The aliens relied heavily on their technological superiority. They weren't expecting resistance. They weren't expecting humans. As the sun rose over Earth the next morning, humanity prepared. Not to kneel, but to show the galaxy why humans should never be underestimated. Dr. Kevin Hayes hadn't slept in 36 hours. His eyes burned as he stared at the simulation results on his screen. Project Starfall was humanity's best-kept secret, hidden deep beneath the Nevada desert. The Nova bomb wasn't ready, but the Caltharians weren't going to wait. "How close are we?" General Frank Morgan asked. His uniform wrinkled from days without change. Hayes rubbed his eyes. "The fusion trigger works, but the quantum cascade effect is still unstable. If it fails, we just have a really big bomb. If it works, we can take out their entire fleet," Morgan finished. "In theory," Hayes added. "We've never tested it at full scale. We never thought we'd have to." General Morgan placed a hand on the scientist's shoulder. "Keep working. You have every resource we can give you." Across the room, John Daniels studied the Caltharian shield technology data they had gathered. A civilian engineer drafted into military research, Daniels had spotted something others had missed. "They're shields," he said, not looking up. "They operate on a frequency rotation that isn't random. There's a pattern." Hayes looked over. "What kind of pattern?" "It cycles through 7 frequencies, each for approximately 3 seconds. If we time our weapons to hit during the transition between the 3rd and 4th cycle, there's a microsecond of vulnerability." General Morgan leaned over the display. "Can we exploit that?" "Maybe," Daniels said. But we'd need perfect timing and a way to synchronize attacks across multiple ships. On the other side of the world, Major Samantha Wright led her Special Forces team through another training exercise. The experimental stealth suits they wore bent light around them, making them nearly invisible to normal detection systems. "Faster!" she barked as her soldiers practiced boarding procedures on a mock-up of what they believed Caltharian ships looked like. "They'll have internal sensors. You have 8 seconds to disable them before you're detected." One of her soldiers, Lieutenant Carl Davis, finished the exercise in record time. "How did you do that?" Wright asked. "I stopped trying to be careful," Davis replied. "These aliens want us to kneel. I'm not planning to give them the satisfaction." Wright smiled grimly. "None of us are." In orbit around Mars, hidden bases came alive with activity. Earth's modest space fleet had doubled in size over the past week. As ships that had been built in secret were finally activated, Captain William Porter stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, Earth's newest and most advanced warship. "Status report," he ordered. Lieutenant Susan Taylor responded. "All systems operational, sir. Stealth systems are functioning within parameters. The Caltharians haven't detected us. And the rest of the fleet? 23 ships ready, 9 still coming online." Porter nodded. Against the Caltharian fleet of hundreds, it seemed hopeless. But each Earthship now carried weapons designed specifically to target the weaknesses John Daniels had discovered. Back on Earth, Dr. Lisa Grant continued her analysis of Caltharian communications. Her team had managed to access more of their transmissions, revealing disturbing details. "They're already dividing Earth into mining sectors," she told Admiral Diane Nelson. "They're not planning to keep much of the population alive." Nelson's face hardened. "How many?" "Maybe 10%. As labor force, the rest are considered unnecessary." Nelson studied the holographic display showing the Caltharian fleet's position. "They've done this before, many times. They're sure of their victory." "That might be their weakness," Grant suggested. "Overconfidence." Nelson nodded slowly. "Perhaps. What about their homeworlds? What have you learned?" Grant pulled up another display. "Their empire spans 12 major systems, with the throne world here." She pointed to a star nearly 100 light-years away. "According to their records, they've never lost a conquest, never even faced serious resistance. First time for everything," Nelson muttered. In his hidden laboratory, Dr. Hayes finally saw the simulation complete successfully. "It works," he whispered. Then louder, "It works." His team gathered around the display. The Nova bomb's quantum cascade effect would trigger a chain reaction that could tear apart matter at the atomic level within a specified radius. "How many can we build in 2 weeks?" General Morgan asked. "With all resources diverted?" "Maybe 5, Hayes answered. "Make it 6, Morgan ordered. On the diplomatic vessel, Ambassador Mitchell met with Commander Zorx again. The alien seemed pleased, which made Mitchell uneasy. "Your leaders are wise to consider submission," Zorx said. "Your species will serve a greater purpose under our rule." Mitchell forced a smile. "We're working to prepare our people for the transition. However, we have concerns about some reports we've heard." Zorx's upper eyes narrowed. "Reports? About the fate of other species who surrendered to the Empire?" The alien was silent for a moment. "You have been intercepting our communications." Mitchell kept his expression neutral. "We're simply concerned about our future." "Your future," Zorx said, his voice suddenly cold, "is to serve or die. Your attempts to spy on the Empire have not gone unnoticed. Your time for preparation is over." The alien turned to leave, then stopped. "As punishment for your deception, we will demonstrate our power. Watch your moon base and remember that resistance is futile." As Mitchell rushed back to his ship to warn Earth, the Caltharian fleet moved. A single warship broke formation and headed toward Luna Colony, home to over 12,000 people. President Bennett received the warning too late. From the Oval Office window, he watched as a bright flash lit up the moon's surface. Luna Colony, humanity's first permanent settlement beyond Earth, was gone. "They're sending a message," Admiral Nelson said, standing beside him. "So are we," the president replied. "Activate Operation Dust Storm. and launch Shadow Fleet. Across the solar system, hidden ships began to power up. On Mars, Captain Porter received new orders. "This is it," he told his crew. "No more hiding. No more waiting." In Nevada, Dr. Hayes loaded the first completed Nova bomb onto a transport. "Is it stable?" General Morgan asked. Hayes nodded. "As stable as something that can tear apart reality can be." Major Wright led her team onto the stealth ship Phantom. Their mission: infiltrate the Caltharian flagship and gather critical intelligence on their command structure. "We may not come back from this," she told her soldiers. Lieutenant Davis checked his weapons. "As long as Earth does, that's what matters." As Earth's hidden fleet prepared to launch, John Daniels made a final adjustment to the targeting systems. "Remember," he told the technicians, "hit them during the shield transition. You'll have less than a second." The destruction of Luna Colony had been meant to break humanity's spirit. Instead, it had ignited a cold fury that spread across the planet. The Caltharians had made their move. Now it was humanity's turn. Captain Porter looked at the faces of his crew as the Defiant broke orbit from Mars, leading Earth's secret fleet into battle. "They expect us to kneel," he said. "Let's show them how humans respond to threats." Commander Ashley Peterson held her breath as the stealth ship Phantom glided silently through space. The massive Caltharian flagship loomed ahead, its surface covered with weapons that could vaporize her small vessel in seconds. The destruction of Luna Colony had left a scar on the moon visible even from this distance. "Stealth systems at maximum," Lieutenant Paul Rodriguez whispered from the weapons station, as if the aliens might hear them through the vacuum of space. "Shield gap in their aft section coming up in 20 seconds. Peterson nodded. "All hands, prepare for boarding action. Remember the plan: get in, plant the data miners, get out, no heroics." Colonel Steve Garrison checked his stealth suit one last time. He led a team of 12 Special Forces soldiers, each carrying enough explosives to level a city block. "We're ready, Commander." 10 seconds to shield gap, Rodriguez announced. The Phantom drifted closer, engines powered down to minimal levels. Peterson felt sweat trickle down her back despite the ship's cool temperature. If they were detected now, they would be dead before they could even send a warning to Earth. 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Gap. Peterson pushed the thrusters forward. The Phantom shot through the momentary weakness in the Caltharian shields, then cut all power. The tiny ship drifted, now within the shield perimeter of the alien. "Flagship, we're in," she breathed. "Docking procedure, silent approach." The Phantom moved quietly toward a maintenance hatch on the flagship's underbelly. Intelligence suggested this was the least monitored area of the massive vessel. "Contact in 3, 2, 1. Rodriguez counted down. The ship shuddered slightly as magnetic clamps engaged with the alien hull. Colonel Garrison and his team moved to the airlock. "Go," Peterson ordered. "You have 40 minutes before the shield cycle makes extraction impossible." Garrison nodded grimly. "See you in 39. The Special Forces team slipped through the airlock and onto the Caltharian ship. Their suits bent light around them, making them nearly invisible to the naked eye. But they didn't know if Caltharian sensors could detect them. Back on Earth, Dr. Helen Morris worked frantically at her console, surrounded by banks of quantum computers. Her team had been tasked with creating a virus that could disrupt Caltharian communications. "I need more processing power," she told her assistant. "Their encryption is changing every 12 seconds. "We're already running at maximum," the young technician replied. Morris took a deep breath. "Then we need to be smarter. Their language has patterns. All communication does." She adjusted her algorithm again, focusing on the rhythmic structure of Caltharian transmissions rather than the content. After 20 minutes, her computer chimed. "I've got it," she said, her exhaustion forgotten. "I found the pattern. We can insert our code during the gap between transmissions." Across the solar system, Captain Ryan Baker commanded Earth's main battle fleet, hidden in the shadow of Jupiter. 30 ships waited for his order. "Status report," he demanded. "All ships ready, Captain," his executive officer replied. "Nova bombs are loaded on the Valiant, Intrepid, and Dauntless. The rest of the fleet is armed with conventional weapons targeting the shield vulnerabilities." Baker nodded. And the Caltharian fleet? Still in Earth orbit. They're positioning for what appears to be a planetary bombardment. Baker's jaw tightened. Not on my watch. Prepare to move on my mark. We'll hit them from behind while they're focused on Earth. Aboard the Caltharian flagship, Colonel Garrison's team moved silently through the alien corridors. The ship was enormous, with ceilings 3 times human height. Everything was designed for the tall, 4-eyed aliens. "Junction ahead," Garrison whispered into his comm. 2 guards. The team froze as a pair of Caltharian soldiers walked past, their armored bodies dwarfing the humans. Once they were gone, Garrison led his team to a data terminal. "This looks like what we need," he said. "Jackson, plant the first data miner." Specialist Jackson removed a small device from his pack and placed it on the alien terminal. The device lit up briefly, then went dark as it burrowed into the ship's systems. "Data flowing," Jackson confirmed. Back on the Phantom, Commander Peterson monitored the feed. "It's working. We're getting their tactical information, ship positions, command structure." Lieutenant Rodriguez studied the incoming data. "Commander, this is strange. Their fleet is much larger than what they're showing. There are ships hiding behind Saturn." Peterson frowned. "That doesn't make sense. Why hide forces when they already outnumber us?" "Maybe they're expecting reinforcements," Rodriguez suggested, "or they're worried about something else." On the Caltharian flagship, Colonel Garrison's team continued deeper into the vessel. They had planted 3 data miners already and were approaching the main command center. "One more to go," Garrison told his team. "This is the riskiest part. The command center will be heavily guarded." As they approached, a door suddenly opened. A Caltharian officer emerged, nearly walking into them. The alien paused, its 4 eyes scanning the corridor. "It senses something," Specialist Jackson whispered. The Caltharian reached out a hand, moving it slowly through the air. Its fingers passed inches from Garrison's face. Then alarms began to sound throughout the ship. "We've been detected," Garrison said. "Plan B. Plant the last data miner and set the charges. We're fighting our way out." The team dropped their stealth and opened fire. The Caltharian officer fell before it could react. More aliens poured into the corridor, firing weapons that turned the walls to slag. "Jackson, the data miner!" Garrison shouted. Jackson sprinted toward the command center, dodging alien fire. He slammed the device onto the main terminal, then threw grenades into the room. "It's done," he called back. The team fought their way back toward the airlock, leaving explosives in their wake. 2 soldiers fell to alien weapons, their bodies disintegrating instantly. "We're coming in hot," Garrison radioed to the Phantom. "Start the engines, Commander." Peterson powered up the Phantom as the survivors of the boarding team burst through the airlock. "We lost Cooper and Wilson," Garrison reported, his suit scorched and smoking. "But we got what we came for." "Hold on," Peterson ordered as she gunned the engines. The Phantom tore away from the flagship just as the first explosions began to rocket from within. As they fled, Rodriguez analyzed the data they had stolen. "Commander, you need to see this. The Caltharians have planet-killing weapons aimed at Earth. They're not planning to conquer it. They're planning to destroy it." Peterson's blood ran cold. "Send this to Earth immediately, and alert Captain Baker's fleet. We need to move now." Back on Earth, Admiral Diane Nelson received the transmission from the Phantom. She walked quickly. "To the President's office, sir, we have confirmation. The Caltharians never intended to accept our surrender. They were stalling while they positioned their weapons." President Bennett stared at the data. "Then we have no choice. Send the order. Operation Dust Storm is a go." Across the solar system, Earth's hidden fleet moved into position. Captain Baker's voice came over the comm to all ships. "This is it. The Caltharians thought we would kneel. Instead we fight. For Earth. For Luna. For humanity." As the human fleet accelerated toward the unsuspecting Caltharian armada, Baker gave the final order. "Weapons. Free. Hit them where it hurts." The first Nova bomb detonated in the heart of the Caltharian fleet. There was no sound in the vacuum of space, but the flash was brighter than 1,000 suns. Where 30 alien warships had been, now there was only a swirling vortex of torn matter and energy. Captain Ryan Baker watched from the bridge of his flagship as the impossible weapon did its work. The Caltharians had never seen anything like it. Neither had humans until desperation drove them to create it. Direct hit, his weapons officer reported. Quantum cascade effect is stable and expanding as predicted. Baker nodded, his face grim. Signal the fleet. Execute Mars Gambit now. The human fleet split into 3 groups, each attacking from different angles. The Caltharians, still reeling from the Nova bomb, struggled to regroup. Their perfect formation, designed to intimidate rather than for actual combat, broke apart, in confusion. On the surface of Mars, hidden defense batteries emerged from beneath the red sand. Engineer Laura Collins had spent the last week installing the final targeting systems. All batteries online, she reported to Earth Command. Firing. Solution locked. Admiral Diane Nelson gave the order. Fire. The surface of Mars lit up as hundreds of railguns fired simultaneously. Hypersonic projectiles streaked toward the Caltharian fleet at a fraction of light speed. They weren't as devastating as Nova bombs, but there were thousands of them, all timed to hit during the brief moments when the alien shields transitioned between frequencies. In Earth orbit, Imperial Commander Zorx watched in disbelief as his fleet came under attack from multiple directions. The humans were supposed to be primitive, barely able to leave their own planet, yet they fought with a ferocity and coordination he had never witnessed in thousands of years of conquest. Impossible, he hissed, as another group of his ships were torn apart by weapons that somehow bypassed their shields. How can they know? The shield cycles? His second-in-command had no answers. Sir, our reserve fleet behind Saturn is under attack as well. The humans knew they were there. Jorek slammed his fist into the command console. Launch the planet killers now. If we cannot have this world, no one will. In the debris field that had once been Luna Colony, Pilot Gregory Ward led a squadron of small fighter craft toward the massive Caltharian vessels designated as planet killers. Each human pilot knew this was likely a one-way mission. Remember, the plan, Ward told his squadron. We only need to get close enough to plant the charges. The Nova detonators will do the rest. The tiny human ships weaved through enemy fire. The Caltharians had never encountered an enemy willing to sacrifice themselves so readily. Their defense systems were designed to stop rational attacks, not suicide runs. They're trying to ram us, a Caltharian gunner shouted in alarm. One by one, Ward's fighters slammed into the planet killers, each impact followed by a small but devastating Nova detonation. Of the 12 pilots who began the mission, only Ward himself survived, his ship crippled but still functional. Command, this is Ward, he radioed back to Earth. Planet killers neutralized. Requesting pickup if possible. If not, it's been an honor. Back in Nevada, Dr. Kevin Hayes watched the battle unfold through satellite feeds. The Nova bombs were working better than he had dared hope, but at a terrible cost. The quantum cascade effect was tearing apart not just ships, but the very fabric of space in small areas. The effects are more widespread than our models predicted, he told General Morgan. If we use too many in close proximity, we risk creating a runaway reaction. Morgan frowned. Can it be stopped? Hayes shook his head. Once started, the cascade continues until it burns itself out. But if multiple fields merge, he didn't need to finish. They both knew what it meant. The weapon they had created to save humanity could potentially destroy much more than just the enemy. On the bridge of his ship, Captain Baker received the warning about the Nova bombs just as he was preparing to launch another. Adjust target coordinates, he ordered. Keep the detonations at least 10,000 kilometers apart. The battle had become a strange dance. The human fleet was vastly outnumbered, but armed with weapons the Caltharians had no defense against. The aliens fought back with overwhelming firepower, destroying 3 human ships for every one of theirs that fell. In orbit around Earth, Commander Zorx was forced to make a decision no Caltharian military leader had faced in 10,000 years of the Empire's existence. Order a tactical withdrawal, he commanded. Regroup at the designated coordinates. His officers stared in shock. The Empire never retreated. Sir? His second-in-command questioned. Do it, Zorx roared. The humans have weapons we do not understand. We must adapt our strategy. As the Caltharian ships began to pull back, Admiral Nelson and President Bennett watched from Earth Command. "They're retreating," Nelson said, her voice tight with restrained emotion. Bennett nodded. "Not running, regrouping. This isn't over." "No," Nelson agreed. "But now we have a chance. And it's time for Phase 2 of Operation Dust Storm." Captain Porter's fleet, which had been hiding in reserve, now moved into position. Each ship carried specialized communication equipment designed by Dr. Helen Morris. "Broadcasting now," Porter reported. Across every frequency the Caltharians used, a single message played in their own language. "You threatened our world. We can threaten yours." Attached to the message were the coordinates of every major world in the Caltharian Empire. On his flagship, now retreating to Saturn, Commander Orcs received the message. For the first time in his long life, he felt fear. "How do they know our homeworlds? This is impossible." His tactical officer brought up a new alert. "Sir, we're detecting small human vessels throughout our territory. They're already in our home systems." President Bennett addressed the emergency session of Earth's United Nations. The room was solemn, filled with leaders who understood the gravity of what was happening. "The Caltharians are regrouping, not retreating," she told them. "But we've shown them something they've never encountered before. A species that would rather die fighting than live on its knees." Admiral Nelson stepped forward. "Operation Dust Storm is now fully activated. Before the Caltharians ever arrived in our system, we had already sent stealth ships to their territory. Each carries Nova bombs and is positioned near their most important worlds." A murmur ran through the assembly. "This is our message to the Empire," Bennett continued. "Withdraw completely from our solar system, or we reduce your worlds to dust." Across the solar system, the battle paused as both sides regrouped. Earth had bloodied the nose of an empire that had never known defeat. But the cost had been high. Thousands dead, ships destroyed, and the long-term effects of the Nova weapons still unknown. Captain Baker looked at the damage reports from his fleet. 7 ships lost, 4 badly damaged. "Prepare for the next engagement," he ordered his remaining captains. "The Caltharians won't stay back for long, and when they come, they'll come with everything they have." Imperial High Commander Orcs stood before the Emergency Council of the Caltharian Empire. For the first time in his long life, he felt shame. The massive chamber was silent as the 12 High Lords stared down at him. "Explain," the Emperor said, his voice echoing through the hall. "How does a primitive species from a single world dare to challenge the might of our empire?" Orcs bowed his head. "The humans are different, Divine One. They did not respond as expected. When faced with overwhelming force, they did not surrender. When shown our power, they did not cower." "And now they threaten our homeworlds?" a High Lord asked, voice filled with disbelief. On the main display, a map showed small human ships positioned near every major world in the Caltharian Empire. How they had gotten there, undetected, before the invasion even began, was still unknown. "They are bluffing," another High Lord declared. "Their ships cannot carry weapons powerful enough to threaten entire planets." Orcs looked up. "They destroyed 30 of our ships with a single weapon, a weapon that tears apart matter itself. We have never seen its like." The Emperor rose from his throne. "Destroy them. All of them. Now." On Earth, President Sharon Lewis stood on the observation deck of the space station Freedom. Captain William Porter stood beside her, his uniform still bearing scorch marks from the last battle. "They're mobilizing their reserve fleet," Porter reported. "Over 300 ships moving toward Earth." Lewis nodded. She had aged years in the past weeks. "And our forces?" 19 ships still combat ready. 3 Nova bombs left. The Mars defense grid is at 60% capacity. Dr. Kevin Hayes entered the observation deck, carrying a data tablet. Dark circles under his eyes showed he hadn't slept in days. "Madam President, I've completed the analysis on the Nova technology applications. Can we stop them?" Lewis asked, simply. Hayes hesitated. "Not directly, but we found a way to amplify the Nova effect. If we detonate a bomb near a star, we can trigger a reaction in the star itself." Porter's eyes widened. You're talking about causing a supernova. Yes? Hayes said quietly. We've positioned nova bombs near 3 stars in Caltharian space, key systems with military bases. If detonated, the resulting supernovas would destroy everything in those systems. President Lewis turned to look at the Earth below, blue and beautiful against the blackness of space. We're talking about billions of lives. Yes, Madam President. Is there no other way? Porter stepped forward. Our fleet cannot stop 300 warships, not even with the nova bombs we have left. Lewis closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, there was steel in her gaze. Transmit to all Caltharian channels. I will speak to their emperor directly. In the grand chamber on the Caltharian throne world, the emperor received the transmission request with surprise. The human leader wishes to speak? Put her through. Let us hear her surrender. President Lewis appeared on the massive screen. The Caltharians saw a small, fragile-looking creature, nothing like their own towering, powerful forms. Emperor of the Caltharian people, Lewis began, her voice steady. I am President Sharon Lewis of Earth. I speak to you directly, one leader to another. The Emperor leaned forward. We accept your surrender, human. Kneel before the Empire, and perhaps some of your people will be spared. Lewis smiled, but there was no warmth in it. That is not why I have contacted you. I am here to deliver our terms. A murmur of shock ran through the chamber. Your terms? The Emperor growled. You dare? I dare, Lewis replied. Your invasion fleet will leave our solar system immediately. All Caltharian forces will withdraw beyond the Oort cloud. You will acknowledge Earth and all human colonies as sovereign and untouchable. In return, we will not detonate the Nova devices currently positioned near your major stars. The Emperor laughed, a harsh sound. You cannot destroy stars. This is a desperate bluff. Is it? Lewis asked. You've seen what our Nova technology can do to your ships. Let me demonstrate what it can do to a celestial body. She nodded to someone off-screen. Moments later, the Caltharians watched as a small human ship near one of their uninhabited moons detonated a device. The moon shuddered, then began to break apart from within. In minutes, where a solid moon had been, there was only an expanding cloud of dust and debris. That was a minimal charge, Lewis said into the stunned silence. The devices near your stars are 1,000 times more powerful, designed to trigger stellar instability. The Emperor stood motionless. For the first time in the history of the Empire, a species had demonstrated the power to destroy not just ships or planets, but entire star systems. Why should we believe you will not use these weapons anyway, once we withdraw? High Commander, Orcs asked. Because humans are not like you, Lewis replied. We do not seek conquest. We do not demand others kneel. We wish only to live in peace. But make no mistake, we will protect that peace with every weapon at our disposal. The Caltharian council erupted in angry shouts. The Emperor raised a hand for silence. You would destroy trillions of lives? He asked. To save our own? Yes, Lewis said simply. You gave us no choice when you came to our world demanding submission. When you destroyed our moon base. When you planned to turn our planet into mining sectors. The Emperor and President stared at each other across vast distances of space. You have 1 hour to begin your withdrawal, Lewis said finally. After that, we cannot promise restraint. The transmission ended. In the council chamber, silence reigned. Can they truly do this? A High Lord finally asked. Orcs nodded slowly. I believe they can, and more importantly, I believe they will. The Emperor sat heavily on his throne. In 10,000 years, no species has ever threatened the Empire itself. No species has ever been like the humans, Orcs replied. On Earth, President Lewis turned away from the screen. Captain Porter, Dr. Hayes, and Admiral Nelson watched her with a mixture of awe and concern. Will they withdraw? Nelson asked. They must, Lewis said, or we face the unthinkable. An hour later, the Caltharian fleet began to move. Not toward Earth, But away, massive ships altered course heading out of the solar system. They're leaving, Porter confirmed, studying the tactical display. All of them. Hayes let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Would we really have done it? Triggered the supernovas? Lewis didn't answer immediately. Finally, she said, "Today the galaxy learns that humans do not kneel, not to anyone or anything. If that lesson requires that we be feared rather than loved, so be it." As the last Caltharian ships disappeared from their sensors, Admiral Nelson approached the president. "What now?" she asked. Lewis looked out at the stars. "Now we build stronger ships, better weapons, and we prepare for whatever comes next. The galaxy now knows we exist, and that we are not to be trifled with." On the retreating Caltharian flagship, High Commander Zorax watched the blue planet recede on his view screen. "Note this in the Imperial records," he told his officers. "Earth is to be classified as Death World. Humans are to be designated as Threat Level Alpha. No Imperial forces are to enter their territory again." An officer bowed. "And if the Emperor orders otherwise?" Zorax looked at the image of Earth one last time before it disappeared from view. "Then the Empire will be reduced to dust."